Great, we're all started here. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming to the Hooksett Chamber of Commerce's first virtual event of the year. We appreciate your support and want to provide you both in-person networking and virtual events for the betterment of all of our members. And we have a special presentation today from the one and only Allison Mulatto from BlueLion. Close enough. And today she's going to outline and discuss a lot of the recruiting challenges that many of our businesses are seeing, definitely post-COVID and in the remote workspace. And they're really, now that all the states are competing for the same talent. She's going to dive into social media branding, drafting job ads, and beefing up benefits to put your business in the best place it can be to find new employees. So Allison, I'll let you have the floor.
Excellent. And I just want to remind everyone that this presentation is being recorded. We do always start with our nice little disclaimer that our attorneys love for us to do. This presentation is providing general information. It is sometimes swayed depending on what your industry is or what you have going on. So definitely always take this as educational, but before you implement things, feel free to reach out to a consultant or an attorney to make sure what you're doing is the best practice for your business and your situations. A little bit about us. So we are BlueLion. We are an HR consulting company. We are based in Southern New Hampshire. We service New Hampshire, Mass, Maine. We do on-site services and we do remote across the country. We help small to mid-sized businesses with anything that's HR related. We are real people with real personalities, and we are also a 1% company. And if you'd like to learn more about that, check out our website. It has to do with how we give back to our community. Teeny bit about me. I am SHRM certified. I did get my master's from UNH, so I'm super smart, but I do love what I do. I love helping small businesses. I love helping small businesses do more and focus more on their business. And then we kind of take care of all the other stuff and help guide them in the right direction to be the most effective with their time, because that's the one thing that we all need more of. And there is not enough of, which is time. All right, so we're going to dive right in. This absolutely can be interactive. So if you have questions as we're going, feel free to interrupt me. But we are going to get started with talking about social media. So social media and everything you need to know. So if we all can remember and flash back 10, 15 years ago, where were we looking for jobs? Does anybody remember the union leader? And you used to get the union leader and you would open it up and you'd go to the classified section and you'd find the job ads, or you watch old movies and the dad gets laid off and he comes home with the newspaper. And because he has a newspaper and he's circling classifieds, the wife knows we need a new job. That has kind of gone to the ways of the past. So most everything is now technology based. So we have your job boards like Indeed and Jobber and all these other places where you can go and, post your ads for your open positions. One of them that is becoming more commonly used is social media. So 94% of surveyed recruiters say that they're already or planning to use social media for their recruiting purposes. It's definitely had an uptick since COVID. A lot of things are getting pushed to online post-COVID. It's a much better way for people to engage. Not to mention, through COVID, a lot of us found a new pastime of being on social media. So on your Instagram and scrolling through your feed, but it's definitely a place where people are trying to attract and retain talent. This also has a lot to do with meeting your people where they're at, which we're going to talk about a little bit later as well.
Allison, I do have a question because you mentioned social media, and I know definitely in the white collar space, LinkedIn is a huge platform. But when we're looking more into the trades, is there any really industry specific website that's more popular? Is ZipRecruiter or Indeed?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the trades when we get into talking about personal branding and the branding of your business. A lot of trades find traction because of their branding. Okay. So if you're a company that focuses on building your brand in the trades, that's where you're going to get the traction, because people are going to know, like, and trust your brand, and then they're going to want to work for you. But we're going to talk about that a little bit better. But they absolutely can still use social media, because a lot of trades are looking for those entry-level apprentices that are going to grow up in their company and they're going to learn the trade. And those entry-level people are absolutely still on the social media platforms. And based on what they're doing on their Google searches and other searches in the internet is how you can hone in and actually refine who's getting to see your ads through the social media, whether it's your Facebook ads for open positions, or if you're doing something on LinkedIn, you can target certain demographics. You want to start off by reviewing what your current company's existing social media accounts look like. Kind of assess, what are we doing? How's this working? How many followers do we have? Are we active? Are we posting? If you have Snorefest on your social accounts, so you're never posting, nobody follows, nobody's sharing your stuff, you're going to have some work to do in order for this to then become effective. Now, like most things in the world, there is a way to cut the line and start getting all of those instantly, which is through money. So the more following and the more social presence you have, the less you have to spend because you're already reaching people. If you don't have that following, you can get there and you can get in front of people, but you're going to have to spend more. So you're going to have to spend more dollars to get your social media posts to be visible to who you're targeting. And keep in mind when you're working on your social, this is a long game. A lot about what we're talking about with attracting the right talent is a long game. There's a difference between recruiting and hiring. Hiring is typically, I'm going to post an ad and I just want to fill a position today. Recruiting is where I'm trying to get people to join my business, to build my brand. And it's going to be a process in which I'm continuously feeding and I'm continuously trying to maintain a good product for them to want to come be part of. So it's more of an ongoing recruiting process versus hiring is posting an ad, doing an interview and offering somebody a position. Recruiting means you're actually trying to cater to the right people to join your team, but it's, again, a longer engagement. We're going to talk more about that as well. 49% of HR professionals say their organization plans to increase their virtual methods of recruiting and candidate engagement. Important piece here is that candidate engagement. So not only are we trying to advertise our open positions on social media, but we're also just trying to engage people. So some of what you're doing on your social media is not necessarily just a post about your open position, but you may be talking about other things in your company that are going on. You may be featuring, you joined the Hooksett Chamber event and you learned this, and this is what we're doing in our community, and this is where we're spending our time, and don't you want to be part of our team? So it's more of just showcasing kind of who you are, but again, engaging those potential candidates through your social media. Here's just some statistics. Everybody loves numbers. 96% of seekers use social media when they are conducting a job search. I will say, as an HR professional, most of the people that I'm interviewing for positions have done their research. They have looked at the company they're going to seek employment with. So they've looked at their social media accounts, they've gone to their website. It's really important that if you're looking to start a recruiting process, that we're kind of looking at what's our messaging? What are we putting out there into the interwebs? What does our website say? Is our website the first draft that was issued in 1995 when the internet came out and we haven't updated anything? Are they going to think that we're on the forefront of technology and we're a hip, cool place to work? No, they're going to probably think that we don't care about technology and we might still be using paper invoicing. So important what your social and your websites kind of say about yourself. Just skipping around here, 40 million people are searching for jobs on LinkedIn. So Tyler, you mentioned LinkedIn. LinkedIn is becoming one of the newer platforms for people that are actually, trying to recruit. It's more of a tool now for recruiters than even job seekers, because we're finding in the current labor market that we're in, most people that are getting hired for a position and getting into new businesses, we're not actually looking to leave their current employment. So it is becoming a job of recruiting versus hiring, because the people aren't applying to job posts any longer. They're being approached through their LinkedIn account. Hey, Tyler, I saw you have a background in ceramics and I'm opening a pottery barn and I'd love to have you be part of my team. You'll be able to run your own crew, create your own designs. And then Tyler's like, oh, I wasn't thinking about leaving where I'm working, but pottery is a passion of mine and I'd actually think I'd like to do that. So before Tyler even looked at any job ads, he's now interested in working for my company and I haven't even posted an ad. So LinkedIn is becoming the place where a lot of people are starting to do that kind of stuff, and it's really taken off. Benefits of social media recruiting. So there's definitely a lot of benefits. Again, back to that branding. It helps you build your brand. It helps you get your logo out there. It helps people seeing, as you're scrolling through Facebook, how many people have done a search at one point for something, and then all of a sudden they're on Facebook and all they're seeing is ads for that item. Yeah. I was looking for a dumpster. looking for a dumpster for a job site. And now every time I'm on social media, I've got dumpster ads. I don't need a dumpster anymore, people. I just keep seeing dumpsters, but it's that branding. Now I can tell you if anybody needs a dumpster, let me know, because I now know 14 companies in New Hampshire that do dumpsters because I've seen their logos every time I'm on social media. But it's that branding, that brand recognition to get yourself out there. Again, passive candidates. So passive candidates is talking about those people that weren't thinking about a different job or actively looking, but now because they saw your ad or they saw how cool it was to work there, they're like, maybe I might want to do this. I saw a commercial one time for Southwest. Does everybody know Southwest and their motto? Fun, low fare, fun, and tons of flights. So those are their 3F: fun, low fare, tons of flights. The fun part is what attracted me. And I'm like, maybe I could be a flight attendant. I hate flying. I hate taking off and I hate landing. I'm never going to be a flight attendant. But they attracted me because their commercial wasn't about anything except for you have to be fun to work there. And I'm like, I can be fun. Again, I'm not even looking for a job, but yet I'm thinking about applying at Southwest. So it's really about, again, reaching those passive candidates. Supplementing your employee referral program. So through social media, if you offer your staff a referral program, meaning Tyler works for me, I'm like, hey, Tyler, we're really trying to hire another HR consultant. You know anybody? Tyler's like, yeah, I already work for you. I love working here. And I'm going to go share your post on my social media because then I get $200 if somebody gets hired.
Right.
So by giving them an incentive, they're then sharing your social post on their social media. And we all know how social media works. It just starts blowing up because you're expanding how many people you're reaching organically. So I'm also not paying for the 35,000 followers that Tyler has that I now have exposure to because he shared my post. You didn't know you were that famous, Tyler. Learn more about the candidates. So you actually get to sometimes, fortunately or unfortunately, learn more about candidates through looking at their social media. And it can be a low recruitment cost. So if you do have a good following, if you have a good network, people are sharing your post, then you can actually expand where you're searching on a much lower cost. We actually had a client of ours that had us doing some campaigns on LinkedIn. The LinkedIn post got 0 people to apply to it. This was a position that was a very niche market. It was a very unique position that is very hard to fill. They were willing to pay to relocate somebody because it was that type of position. They filled the position because someone who knows someone who knows someone saw the ad and reached out to the owner directly. So it was through LinkedIn that they did it, but the person didn't actually apply. They just saw through somebody who threw somebody who threw somebody, which even if it took 3 steps to get there, they feel a connection, which is how you get better candidates. So it's almost like a referral by using those different networks. So what are some action steps we can take? Again, reviewing your company's social media habits. Where are you? There is a lot of social media platforms out there. I heard it best from another person that I network with that's in these type of the business of social media creation and content creation. Don't be there unless you're going to be there. Meaning the game is not to see how many different platforms you can have. So don't be on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok and LinkedIn, and we've got all of it. You look at my signature, I've got all the things. I'm winning. If you're not updating and you're not actually engaging in all of the platforms, you're actually hurting yourself. So if you only have the bandwidth to do a few of them, stick to the few of them you're good at and run with those and be really great at those. Don't try and do everything if it's going to diminish your ability to be there. Also, don't hesitate to look into, there's a lot of technology out there that helps you post on multiple platforms at one time. So you can actually create a post, and through these programs, it'll just go out to all your social. So definitely look into that so you're working smarter and not harder. But again, don't jump on a platform just to create a page if you don't have the time or knowledge to invest. I'll be transparent. I've never been on Snapchat. I don't know how to run a Snapchat. My company doesn't have a Snapchat. We don't use it. I'm not going to use a platform that I'm not going to maintain. So definitely make sure you're keeping up with the ones you do have.
Allison, if you're a small business and you want to focus on one or two platforms, you don't have the bandwidth to do everything, right? If you're a small business in Hooksett, right, where would you focus on for social media platforms?
Yeah, a lot of it's going to depend on who your target market is. And the reason for that is if it is an older population, and unfortunately, I'm in that population now. If you're over 35, if that's your target demographic, they're going to be more on the Facebooks. If you're trying to target kids in high school or in entry-level college, if that's your target market, they're not on Facebook. Facebook died. They don't believe in Facebook. They're all on Instagram. TikTok seems to be the newest, widest spread across generations. But it is also, there are the anti-TikTok people out there as well. But I would definitely say Instagram and Facebook right now are the two that you're going to capture the largest audience. If you're looking for business professionals, they're going to be more on LinkedIn as well when it comes to business networking and growth. So yeah, it really depends on who you're trying to reach on which platform is the best for that kind of stuff. Great. Definitely. So another action step, making sure, again, talking about establishing your company brand. So this is all about branding. This is the long game in recruiting. So we're not waking up one day and all of a sudden I'm going to have a brand. A brand is something that's built over time. It has to do with loyalty. It has to do with recognition, people seeing your face, seeing your logo, seeing your post, and make sure you're targeting the proper communication. There are some companies, if you have the bandwidth and you have the content, they'll create separate social media for recruiting than they have for their marketing for their company. Some philosophy is to keep it together because you have more followers and your customers might also be the people that you want working for them. Sometimes they're not. So there are companies that will separate the two because the target audience for what I'm selling is not the target audience for who I want to work for me. And then they gear their post to those specific individuals. The only challenge is your recruiting social media needs to have more content than just sharing your job post. So it also needs to have content that would be attracting to the people that you would want to have work for you. All right, now we're going to kind of flip a little bit to help with that recruiting process. So not only do we need to make sure we have a great presence on social media and using those new social media tools to help retain and attract people, but we're also going to talk about benefits and how we're going to beef up the benefits to, again, attract and retain staff. Excuse me. So common benefits are going to be health, vision, dental, short-term disability, life insurance. Those have all become standard benefits. It doesn't mean you have to offer them in order to attract people, but it is becoming more of a status quo. And unique benefits are something that more and more employers are getting into to become competitive. Here's just some quick examples. Paid parental leave. So while maternity leave has always been a thing, you're allowed to take time off. Companies are actually now starting to pay for a portion of the time off, and they're also doing it for both sexes. So not only the mother, but they're also doing paid parental father leave for the birth of a child or adoption. So if someone's adopting a child, sometimes they'll pay for 2 weeks for that as well. So that's one that's definitely, we've seen a lot more in the market space. Volunteer time off. The millennial generation, the generation after millennials are all about purpose. They don't want to just go to work to make money, to have a future. They need a purpose. They need to know what impact their company that they're going to work for is having on their community. One way companies have started doing this is volunteer time off. So they're paying their staff a set number of hours or a day or a couple days a year to go and volunteer in the community at a charity that's meaningful for them. Some companies choose to say, okay, as a whole company, we're going to go and donate a day to New Hampshire Food Bank. We're all going to go, we're all going to do it together. It's going to be great team building and I'm going to pay everybody to do it. That's great. But other companies are also taking it to a next level and saying, you know what, the food bank means a lot to us as a business, but maybe dogs is what means a lot to you. So I'm going to give you 4 paid hours. Go ahead and you donate your time at the SPCA because that's meaningful for you and I'll pay you for that. So that's what the volunteer time off is. Tuition reimbursement. We have companies that have traditional is I'm going to pay for you to continue education. So while you're working for me, I'll pay for you to go to some night classes and I'll reimburse you if they're specific to the career in which you've chosen with my profession. We're also seeing now a lot of people are graduated with a lot of debt. So employers are also now starting to help pay for debt. So come and work for me. I'll help you pay off those student loans. So that's a different type of tuition reimbursement we're starting to see more of, is helping pay down the debt they've already incurred, because now you're reaping the benefits of the education they received in the position they're holding at your business. Bereavement leave. This is one that was never usually talked about, and it seems to be being talked about more and more. We actually, one of our clients added a pregnancy loss leave to their benefits a couple of years ago, and there was a nice article posted about them, and we've added it to our benefits this past year. Bereavement leave is obviously the loss of a loved one. Standard policies are usually 3 days if it is a parent, a sibling, a child. And then if it's an extended family, so grandparent, aunt and uncle, cousin, it's usually 1 day. Keep in mind, this is for paid time. So bereavement leave means the company is paying you for the time to bereave. Most employers will give more time, but it's not paid, or it would come out of their PTO bank or their paid time off. So bereavement leave is when you're actually paying your staff to allow them the time to grieve. Flexible scheduling and telecommuting. COVID just sent this one, skyrocketed. We advanced probably 20 years when it comes to telecommuting and flex scheduling with COVID. Pre-COVID, there was a lot of businesses that wanted people in the office. You couldn't be productive if you weren't in the office. We didn't trust you if you're not in the office. If you're working from home, how do I know you're not doing your laundry? How do I know you're not, taking a nap? How do I know you're putting in all the hours? What if your projects don't get done? How are we going to meet as a team? Through COVID, that got killed. Everyone's Zooming. I mean, we're Zooming now. Everyone's using Teams. Everyone's more comfortable with the technology that allows people to be remote, that is becoming more of a standard. And companies are actually having to make this part of their offering in a recruitment, is the flex scheduling. So flex scheduling is, we have one client, they have what they call core hours. So from 10 to 2, you're required to be on. Whether it's remote or in the office, from 10 to 2 is core hours. The rest of your hours, you can do whatever you want. So if you're not a morning person and you want to start your day at 10, great, then you work 6. So you're 10 to 6. I am a morning person. I'm going to work from 5 to 2. Great. We're both getting our hours in. We're all getting our work done, but we're allowing that flexibility because we're not client facing. There's a lot of jobs in this world that are not client facing, and they don't really need to have the 8 to 5 a banker hours. And then obviously the telecommuting. So the ability to work from home. With COVID, teams have started coming back to the office. A lot of our clients have returned to the office, but we are seeing a lot more flexibility with maybe a split schedule. So it's 3 days at home, 2 in the office. Employers are also liking this. They're doing shared workspaces. So, maybe the 5 of us work in the same office, but Tyler and I share a desk. So Tyler and I are never there the same days because we share the same desk space. Or the entire office has just been converted to shared space. So when you show up, you just grab a desk. And they figured out the scheduling so that we don't need 5 spaces. We only need 2, because only 2 of us are ever showing up at the same time. So that's also saved some overhead for companies. So they've really enjoyed that. But again, beefing up your benefits, getting creative. There's a lot more creative ideas out there. Paying for groceries to be delivered, or gym reimbursements, financial wellness workshops. So bringing in people to help your staff is a lot of benefits that you can offer too. There's a lot of benefits that can be added to your benefits package that actually don't cost the employer any money. So definitely reach out if you're looking for more ideas and more information on that. We also want
some other creative benefits like free meals in the workplace too. That's another one that kind of came about with, especially a lot of the larger companies that are encouraging more employees to come back into the office, right? They're trying to entice them because they've been remote for 2 years. The free meals was something I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. And it's funny because Google was doing a lot of this 20 years ago and everyone thought they were crazy, but now everyone's trying to match what Google does. So Google provides, Google's the Googleplex in California is self-sustaining. They have an entire farm that feeds their staff that's working and stuff. So they've also, I've had some clients trying to make it more home-like to be at the office. So they're allowing people to bring more things into their, their office cubicle space to make it more comfortable, whether it be plants or fishes or things like that, just to kind of, again, encourage them to come back to the office, but making it more of a relaxed atmosphere. Whenever you're talking about your company, whenever you're trying to recruit staff, you definitely want to be showcasing your culture. Now, if you're sitting here saying, Allison, I'm not sure we want to lead with our culture, we've got some work to do there. Highly recommend making that your current focus, because where the labor pool is, if you don't have a great culture, you are going to have a very hard time recruiting. People are looking for the culture. We talked about it with the millennials and the generations coming. They want purpose. They want to go somewhere that's fun to work. It doesn't mean that we have to not be productive. It doesn't mean that we're, have to have a ping pong table in our break room, but they want to make sure that it's an enjoyable atmosphere to come to, because they're spending, 40 to 50 hours a week in these atmospheres. They want them to be adding value to their life, not detracting. So making sure that you have a great culture, and then making sure that's part of your recruiting process. Because again, that's what people are looking for. With COVID, a lot of people looked at their life and they kind of assessed. We had a lot of clients that had people retire early. They're like, you know what? I'm good. I'm good with what work's turned into for me. These last couple of years made me realize, I can do it without it, and I'm just going to stay home. So because of that, people reprioritize things in their life, and they realize that family is super important and vacationing super important. So when they're coming to work, again, they want to work at someplace that has that great culture. So make sure it's part of what you're talking about and part of the business that you're building. This is also where you bring in community. We had talked about that with the volunteer time off. So showcasing what you do for your community in your ads, in what you're, communicating out into the world. Be very clear about how your company is participating in the ecosystem of your local economy. Culture is a buzzword for a reason. Here's just some statistics. So of people that are seeking jobs today, 15% turned down an offer because of the culture. So they had an offer for a job, they turned it down. This one I like. 32% are willing to take a 10% pay cut for a better culture. So again, culture is sometimes more important to people seeking a job than it is the money. It's more about, how is this going to impact my work-life balance? Am I going to enjoy working for you? Is this pleasurable? Are the people that I'm going to be working with going to add value to me in my daily life? So culture is definitely important.
Yeah, just off that 32% piece, I was reading a little bit about the Great Resignation, and I saw a stat that said 70% of employees who changed jobs in the pandemic regret the decision that they made, and it was either for remote purposes or for more money. So that kind of goes into almost exactly, 70% willing to take a 10% pay cut. Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah, absolutely, about where they're working. Additional action steps, making sure you have an effective job posting. So, we've worked on our branding, we're posting on social media, we're getting out there on LinkedIn, we're, trying to contact people that might be in the market that aren't even looking, kind of, to get our feelers out there. When we send them that job that we have, what is it going to look like? Studies have shown, and this is discouraging, women will only apply to a job if they meet 100% of the requirements of the position. Men will apply to a job if they meet just 60%. So why is that important when we're posting an ad? That means the more specific and the more you add into the requirements, the less likely you are to get a breadth of candidates. Meaning there might be somebody out there that is super qualified, but because you put in too much, you put in things that can be trained or aren't necessary but are preferred, you might be eliminating good quality candidates. So we want to make sure that we are including necessary functions. So don't pare your job description down to say you have a pulse, you occasionally call out, and you're kind of a nice person. That's not a job posting. That's what we're looking for, but that's not a job posting. You still want to make sure you're putting in things like the requirements of the position. If they have to have an education as a requirement, if it's preferred, maybe you leave it out. Because again, if I'm a female and you said a preferred 4 years bachelor and I only have a 2 years associate, I'm not going to apply to your job because I'm going to assume somebody else with a 4 years bachelor's has already applied. But if you left it out, then it might work out. You'll get that person. You do not want to take the job description that you've created internally and just make that your job post. Your internal job description needs to, for risk management purposes, have a lot more into it, and it's going to be a lot lengthier than what you need to be posting for a job ad. So you start with your job description, and then you're going to pare it down, you're going to clean it up, but you do not want to, just for time purposes, rip and reuse, because again, you're going to be scaring off candidates that might have otherwise applied if you've simplified it.
Great. Christina, I know you have a question.
Yeah, I do. So part of our, I'm hiring for an IT technician right now. Part of our benefits include training and then paid training for certain certifications. But you're suggesting that we leave that out for the time being, is that? My apologies.
No worries. I had a little frog in my throat. So you're going to pay me to go to the training?
Yep, to do the training, like we have certain certifications for firewall training or just technical training in general. So you have that experience in the future, but.
No, definitely include that. So that's an incentive for me. What I was saying is if you require, so some people will post a job and they'll say, okay, I need office administrative. We would prefer if they have a 4-year degree, because statistically it's proven with a 4-year degree in that position, they tend to stay longer in the position, but it's not a requirement. If you have a 2 years associate, or even sometimes with enough life experience, I'll hire somebody for that position with no college education. By putting in the college education, the person that has no college experience is not likely to apply, but they might have been a great candidate. What you're offering is a tuition reimbursement or a further education. So you're saying, you're putting out there, you don't need education, we're going to get it for you. We're going to train you. We're going to actually pay to make you more marketable. So absolutely include stuff like that, the tuition. So when you get to the benefit section of your job ad, that's where you're going to be putting in tuition reimbursement, paid training courses, all of those kind of things. That's definitely something you'd want to include, because you're trying to attract the people that aren't qualified, because you're going to help them get qualified. So yeah, definitely include that. So kind of going off, what to include, what not to include. We also want to make sure that we're meeting our candidates where they are. We talked about this a little bit before. Tyler had asked about, Facebook versus LinkedIn versus Instagram, like where am I going? So again, candidates early in their careers are still going to be using the social media because that's where they are. That's where they're comfortable. That's what they grew up with. If you think about a 20-year-old, they have never known a time in their life that a cell phone didn't exist. So that's what they're comfortable with. Newspaper, that's grandpa reads the newspaper. Like, we don't have a newspaper in our house. We have cell phones. Experienced candidates are still likely to be going to the traditional sites. I'm not suggesting the union leaders and the newspapers, but I am suggesting the Indeeds, the ZipRecruiters. So those traditional job sites are still beneficial if you're looking for those experienced candidates. And you also will find millennials looking on those sites as well, but they're more apt to be found on the social media. And then if focusing your attention on sourcing tools, where professionals in your field are going to be. So if you are a plumber and you're looking to hire plumbers, and you want an experienced plumber, and there's these trade shows or there's these events that happen, or maybe it's the local contractors association, going to those events is where you're going to meet those people. So finding out what's good for your industry specifically, and then going to those places. Again, places like the chamber are also great places to meet people because it's business people getting together. So it's also great networking. This is my face when the hiring manager thinks that we just hop on LinkedIn and it rains qualified candidates. So don't get discouraged when you are posting if you don't have high traction. Recruiting is about finding the candidates. It's not about them just coming into you. So again, you're going to have to put together a plan on how we go and find and attract them, and that it's not just an open floodgate any longer. We were just talking about industry events. So either hosting or attending them. This is going to get you more contact with people in your industry. With the recruiting plan, you're wanting to meet candidates when they're not looking. So when they are ready and looking, they're going to be thinking about you. So kind of that extended process. So that's why these industry events are great. So if I am that plumber and I'm going to all these events that are specific to the trades and I'm meeting all of these people and people see my brand and they know I'm a really nice guy, I'm a woman, but they know a lot more about my company, they're comfortable. And then maybe if they decide, I think I might switch careers. You know what, I'm going to go and talk to Allison because she seems to have a great outfit over there at BlueLion with their plumbing company. And they'll then be more apt to reach out to you. So just really making yourself be present in all of those industry type things is really great. And we did talk about this briefly when we were talking about benefits, but having internal recruitment incentives is great. So turning to your existing team members to boost recruitment. So giving them an incentive, whether it's their friends, professional connections, community forums, whatever it is, but leveraging them as your recruiter. I highly recommend putting in an internal referral program and just letting it go forever. Some people do it for a specific time if they really need to hire, but then they back it down. The best referral you can get is someone that knows someone that already works in your business, because then they already know firsthand what to expect. They know what they're signing up for. I do recommend making it a timeline of a bonus structure. So typically bonus structures would be after 90 days or 6 months. I also have seen in the labor pool we're in that they break it out. I have one client that gives half of it at 6 months, and then the other half at a year, but they give it to the person being hired and the referring person. So it seems like it might be a lot of money, but if you think about the amount it costs to recruit somebody and spending on posting and, getting your social medias out there and all of that advertising, it ends up being a lot cheaper to have someone just referred into your company. And that kind of wraps it up for today's session. That was a pretty fast-paced through recruiting and enhancing your benefits. But I guess the piece I want to leave you with is remembering that recruiting is a process that you're engaging in. It starts off with branding your company and what messaging you're putting out there and making sure that you're trying to attract the right people to work for you. But it's a lot different than hiring. So recruiting is definitely a program and a plan that you need to establish, and using social media, great benefits, and a good culture, you shouldn't have a problem.
Yeah, long-term goal for sure.
Yeah.
Tom, I know you have a question.
Yeah, so thank you. Ton of information. We talked a lot about what employers can do on social media. Are there common practices that employers should not or cannot do on a social media employer hiring? Like, can employers go and scrub through someone's Facebook and use that in the decision-making process? Speak to me about some of those maybe common do's or don'ts.
Yeah, so you technically have the ability to review anyone's social media. You can look at all of their social medias. There is a concern anytime you're doing that you're opening yourself up for the possibility of a discrimination claim. So you can't unsee what you've seen. And unfortunately, humans by nature create biases without realizing that they do. So you may see something on someone's social and subconsciously it biases you in making your hiring decision, and you're not realizing it's happening. If you never saw it in the first place, you don't have to worry about that bias creeping in. So depending on the position, it sometimes is necessary. I always prefer that our clients use background checks for those purposes versus social media. If you are going to have someone that is out there representing your brand and their face and their persona becomes part of your brand, it may be a necessary thing to know what they're putting out for their personal brand, because their personal brand may meld into what they're portraying for your professional brand, which is becoming part of your brand. A lot of times you see that happen with fitness. So if somebody's hiring someone to be a fitness coach or a yoga instructor for their studio, what they're putting out on their personal social is going to impact them as their business, because they're becoming part of the brand of the wellness center or whatever is happening. Or even if it's sales, if someone's outside sales and they're going to all of these networking events and they're becoming the face of your company, it is important to make sure whatever they're representing on their personal life does match up with your branding. But if they're sitting in an office and they have zero interaction with the outside world, is it necessary for you to know what they do on nights and weekends? I would argue no. And you can obviously have things in your handbook and your hiring process that protect you from other certain liabilities, but I would definitely steer clear of looking for things that you don't need to know about.
Great.
I do have several clients that also love to Google people that are applying for positions. I discourage that as well. Again, sometimes you don't need to know about what's happened in someone's past, and you could become biased because of something that happened in the past. If you're hiring for a position that matters if they had theft on their record, that's what a background check is for. That's not what Google's for. Google gives you all of the things that you really didn't need to know.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Great
So
question.
definitely focusing on, the credit check, background check, or whatever other, pre-screening techniques is a more favorable way than scrolling through their Facebook and seeing if there's any bad pictures from 2011, right?
Correct. And definitely, again, the background checks are only when it's necessary and relevant for the position. So if you're hiring a customer service representative to answer the phone and they're not dealing with any money, you don't need to run a financial background check. Their finances don't impact them answering questions on the phone. So really only doing them when they're relevant to the position they're going to be holding in your company.
Perfect. And you went through a plethora of really good information. I'm excited for everyone that wasn't here to take a look at it. But if there was one thing that, a small to medium size, let's just say under 50 employee business that's looking for people should do, I guess, if there's one actionable step, what would you say, just to kind of sum up a best way to find new people?
So the one action item to find new people, I would say, is get involved. The more you're out in the community and involved, the more you are going to be recognized as someone in the community. So when people are looking, you're a comfortable name. So it all really goes back to branding. So going to chamber events, getting out into the community, volunteering, and just being known in your industry will greatly help you when it comes time to recruit.
Perfect. Was there any other questions?
Awesome.
All right, Allison, thank you so much. This was so informative, and I'm looking forward to seeing, to watching this back and learning some more. It's just because there was so much great information in there. You can get all of Allison's info here, info at BlueLionLLC.com, and they are one of our newest chamber members. So Allison, thank you again for this great presentation.
Yeah, thanks for having it. And absolutely feel free to reach out with any questions as it pertains to anything that you heard. If you've got a question after you've watched it back or watched it for the first time, don't hesitate to reach out. We love helping.
Perfect.
Thanks, Allison. Great presentation.
Thanks, guys.